Relate to this. Relate to this. With J. Charles and Dr. Hal. Relate to this.
To this, J. Tross and my co-host, Dr. Siegfried. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing fine, my friend.
I'm doing well too. You said something just a couple seconds ago in the green room, and it was a reference to followers. We need for you to share this link, share with a friend, share with a loved one. This is Dr. Hal at his best. This is where he really catches hold of your minds as it relates to This is where this is his bread and butter, if you will. Because transitioning from being a teacher in the classroom, in the sciences and stuff like that, transitioning from teaching kids how to put things together science-wise and chemicals, and all these kind of doing all these great things. Now he's transitioned over into teaching adults how to be better to themselves and better to others. So share this link. Share this link. I guess I'll say it one more time. Share this link with somebody, because somebody needs to hear what Dr. Hal has to say here. There's other places you can catch him. His books are out there, but share this link because it's important to your relationships. It's important to your friends' relationships. It's important to the people who try to be in a relationship with you. You know what I mean? So share it out to them. But we're here. Listen, we're here. We like to always take care of a little, how do I say it? A little housekeeping. Dr. Hal and myself, we jump on another show called Awkward Situations. Awkward Situations. You want to check that out too. That's where we're laughing. Now we laugh on this show too. But if you want some real laughter, you check us out on Spotify, on Amazon, any of those things there. But we want you to check it out. This show is brought to you by MEI, Making Education Intentional. Dr. Siegfried Hal is the CEO of that company, and listen, he is going with it. He's rocking with it. He's gonna roll this. You know how somebody said until the wheels fall off? These wheels not gonna fall off. All they're gonna do is just keep pumping up more and more. So
these are Michelins, baby.
These are Michelin. That's right, Michelins. If y'all want to sponsor us, we show you how those wheels can really work. Anyway, so so continue to check us out. We're doing bigger and better things. We're just trying to motivate people just to be themselves. You know what I mean, Dr. Hal? How can you just be yourself? That's the most important part. That's what we're all about. And this show, by the end of the show, I always ask the magic question. What's that magic question I always ask, Dr. Hal?
Can you relate to this?
I'm gonna have to how they say that? I'm gonna have to put a what's the thing called?
Disclaimer?
No, not a disclaimer. It's the other thing. Patent. I'm gonna have to put a patent on that so you can't say it like, because what's his name? Michael. What's his name? Michael Buffer. Let's get ready. I ain't gonna say the whole thing because YouTube might stop it. You know what I mean? And might get a bill in the mail. But Michael Buffer, you cannot just go around and say his line. You just can't. That's money.
Yeah.
But yeah. So when we left the show last week, Dr. Howe, I left a cliffhanger in there. I don't know if you remember that cliffhanger question, but I left a cliffhanger because I wanted my people to understand that there are barriers that exist in relationships. I mean, and sometimes it's hard to identify those barriers until you right up against the wall. So left that cliffhanger. I wanted to throw that question out to us tonight as we get the show started. How can individuals identify and work through communication barriers in their relationships?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with authenticity. You got to be true to yourself. You got to be true to your partner. But I want to say that with a caveat. A lot of people say, this is me. This is who I am. Take me as I am. What about if that version that you are is a horrible version? And so with me saying that, I don't want you to just say to people, this is me, this is what I am, this is how I am, take me the way I am. Because if you have something you need to work on, it's not fair to subject someone to that negativity or someone to that weird way of doing things. And so be authentic to yourself, and I mean to your values and to your beliefs, but also strive to be the best version of yourself. That's the first thing. So how do you break through that communication barrier? First thing is be true to yourself. Know what your non-negotiables are. Know what your boundaries are. Be able to verbalize them effectively and efficiently. That's the first thing. Number two, learn how to fight fear. Remember, it's not you against me. It's us against our problem, us against our situation, us against this misunderstanding. And so when you take ego out of it, it's not I have to win versus you have to lose, or you have to win versus I have to lose. It should be a win-win situation. And so for it to be a win-win situation, we have to learn how to fight fear. So we need to discuss the issue without tearing down each other. So that's the second thing. The third thing, learn how to use I statements. So you say stuff like, I feel upset when you do X, Y, Z, instead of you always make me and you never do this. See, when you say you this, you that, you're not taking responsibility for your emotions. You're not taking responsibility for your part that you're playing in the event. But when you say, I feel upset or I feel annoyed when you do X, Y, Z, I'm acknowledging the fact that I'm owning my emotions. I'm upset, and I'm letting you know I'm upset, but I'm telling you why. So if you love me, if you care for me, and if you want to add value to me, and if I'm being reasonable, then you now have an opportunity to fix whatever X, Y, Z is. And so fighting fear uses I statements to represent what your feelings are. And the fourth thing is you never use words like always, never. You don't use those definite words, because no one is always mean. No one is always upset. No one is always, and no one never is nice. No one is never pleasing or never. But we use those words when we're upset, and it makes the other person on the receiving end feel like they're not making any progress, like they're not being acknowledged for the positives that they are bringing to the table. So those are four major things. A fifth thing that you can do is make sure you can, if both you all are emotional, have a time where only one person can be upset at a time. Because if both people are upset at the same time, it creates a recipe for fighting. And so sometimes people might have what is called a safe space, where when we go into this room, we can talk, but when we leave that room, we leave our emotions behind. So you need to have a safe space. And if you cannot talk at this point in time, let's have a safe time where we can talk. See, a lot of times people get pent up because they can't voice their opinion. I don't want to hear that now. But if you know that at 6 o'clock today, we can discuss anything that happened throughout the day, then we can relax knowing that it will get resolved at 6 o'clock. So let's just continue with whatever needs to get done. But at 6 o'clock, we will deal with whatever needs to be done. But we're doing it in a safe space at a safe time. Two of us aren't going to be upset at the same time. We'll use those I statements. And on top of that, we will make sure that we fight fairly and we're working at being authentic. So we're being transparent and we're not having a facade where people don't know what we want, where we're coming from, or what we need.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Great opening to our program tonight. It's actually going to lead us into one of the most how do you say it, most difficult parts of relationships, right? And that is the challenges that exist, right? There are many challenges, but what would you say, Dr. Howe, is, let's just say two. Let's see if we can get two, right? What are two of the biggest challenges that relationships have? And in those two challenges, how do we overcome them?
Well, I would say the biggest one is ego, trying to get our way. Everybody wants to get their own way at some point in time. And a lot of times when we don't get our own way, or when we feel like someone is getting the upper hand on us, we get in our feelings. Chris Rock said in one of his stand-ups, sometimes you play lead and sometimes you're on the tambourine. And nobody likes an upset tambourine player. So basically what he's saying is, you play your position. You can't be out in front all the time, and you can't be in the back all the time. And so if you're the one who's leading the relationship, because there's always one who's always a little bit more of an extrovert, and so it seems like they're the one to run the relationship. But at some point in time, you got to play second fiddle, and so let's say you're the breadwinner at this point in time. There might be a time in your relationship where you're not the breadwinner and you got to play second fiddle. And so you got to take your ego out of the situation. And so for men, if you make a lot of money and your woman doesn't make a lot of money, a lot of men like to flex. But then when women are making the money and we're not making the money and they start to flex, we get upset. And so you have to understand that ego plays a big part in the relationship. And if you love each other, and you have a specific purpose that you're working towards, goals that you're working towards, dreams that you're working towards, you got to let that ego take second place, because that ego can come between you and your relationship. The next thing you have to look at is making sure that everyone has a chance to be themselves. And so a lot of times, people like to control each other in relationships. Oh, don't say that. Don't do this. We're doing this for Christmas. We're doing this for spring break. And they don't want the other person to have a say. Or if they have a say, they give them a hard time. Oh, that's stupid. This, that, and the other. And so, like I said, and that plays back into the ego situation again. No one person should dominate a situation, because God has a funny way of humbling people. You might be up today, you're going to be down tomorrow. And you will want the person who is your partner, the one that you love, to show you a little bit of compassion and humility at some point in time. And so how do you overcome it? You you find ways to hold your emotions and your ego at bay, because the ego is the hardest thing that you have to control outside of your tongue. But that ego will also cause you to say things that you can't unsay. And if you can't unsay something that's hurtful, then you can create situations, moods, tensions, and elephants in the room that you don't want in your relationship.
Awesome. I paused for a second because I thought you'd bring me some more. I feel like it's from last week. I think we ran into that last week too. I thought you were going to say a little bit more. One of the things that exists, and this is a worldwide situation, right, is, and I want to get it from your perspective. From I know you've counseled many individuals. You may have just had casual conversations with some guys, and different things of that nature. And a lot of them say, when I got with this person, I was looking for blank, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I got with them, I got something totally different, blank, 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 right? So this question is like one of those age-old questions. What's the most important quality somebody looks for in a partner?
You know what? I would say this. Chemistry is big, but not physical chemistry. See, you can have physical chemistry with thousands of people. A lot of times when people say, man, I get along really well with you, and you think that that's all you need in order to get married. We get along well. Nah. Sometimes God puts you in the vicinity of people because you're supposed to be friends, not lovers. But because of that physical chemistry or because of that verbal chemistry, we think that we're supposed to progress to the next level because it seems natural. But do you have spiritual chemistry? In other words, do you vibe when you talk about religious stuff? Are y'all compatible? Can you talk for hours on religious matters? See, people don't expect that, do they? Do you have similar beliefs? Can you vibe? Can you sync? Can you align on the spiritual level? What about emotionally? Can you emotionally be authentic with each other? Can you be yourself? Can I talk to you about personal stuff and know that it's going to be safe? Know that I'm not going to be judged? And then we talk about mental stuff. Do you feed me mentally? Can we have conversations about deep stuff, about existential stuff that can make us walk away feeling like, man, I feel like I've actually spent some good quality time today? Or is it just about regular surface type stuff? Stuff that people normally talk about. Hey, how you doing today? Oh, yeah, you look nice. Yeah, you look nice. You smell good. You smell good, too. Oh, you've been working out. Oh, man, I like your hair. Oh, your nails look good. Oh, yeah, I like your shoes. All that surface stuff, anybody can do that. But when you want to get into a relationship, you want to get that mental food, too. So you need the spiritual food. You need the mental food. But you also need that physical stimulation. So when you're talking about chemistry, physical, mental, emotional, but then what else can we do? And so let's look at financial stimulation. Are you going to encourage me to be the best version, best steward that I can possibly be? Are you financially responsible? Can we teach each other something about finances? And you go down the list. And so a lot, like I said at the beginning, people start at physical and stop at physical. And so a lot of times people choose people because they're being superficial. But if you get to the deeper level and look at chemistry from a deeper level, then you can put God in the whole mix. My dad always used to say, if you pray 4 times a day and you contemplating dating and getting married, you should multiply it by 2. So instead of 4 times, you got to 8 times, because this is a life-altering decision. When men get married, that can add or decrease from your life. A woman can make or break you. The Bible talks a lot about that. And so you got to be very careful as to who you choose. And women, the man that you choose can bring you a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, and make you have offspring that you may not be proud of. And so the next thing I want to talk about is the next important thing is who you choose. So you have to choose people based on your personality, based on what you're willing to compromise, based on what you're willing to give on value to someone else. And so if you are a quiet person, you're probably going to be attracted to a louder person. But is that person someone who's going to give you a lot of turmoil in your life? Is that a person that's going to bring you a lot of shame in your life? Is that a person who's going to be going out and leaving you at home by yourself? Are you going to have a lot of lonely days and lonely nights because that person is so extroverted that you have no influence. I don't want to say the word control. You have no influence over them. So the person you choose is equally as important as the chemistry that you have. And then you said two. I'm going to bring one more. Your commitment. How much are you and the other person willing to commit to each other? Because there's going to be points where the butterfly feelings subside. But are you committed to the long haul? Are you committed to helping each other reach your goals? You know, and so when the love butterflies run out, are you committed to the fight, to the work, and to the dedication, the tenacity, and to not going to bed upset with each other that it takes to go the distance in a marriage or in a healthy relationship? So those are three really important things that I believe people tend to take for granted. And if you can commit to the long haul relationship, then you will commit to fighting fear. You will commit to communication. You will commit to authenticity. You will commit to all those things needed in order to keep that relationship healthy.
Awesome. You how they say it in rapping? Well, you spitting some stuff out today. you bringing some stuff, because now you did hit on something that was very important. You talked about religion, but I also there's also that cultural, right? That cultural background that also exists. So I'll throw this question in there. I was going to hold it, but it's the perfect time for it since you did bring up the religious aspect of the relationship. How do you navigate cultural or religious differences in your relationship? Because based on your culture, I mean, you may have a culture that don't like to talk, or you like your culture, you like to talk over people, or you know what I mean? So, and then religion, you know, how do you navigate that? I mean, it's simple to say run, right? Run away from that or run away from this. But truly, that's not what people are doing, right? They are running to. So how do you navigate? Because if you're going to be in it, I'm going to give you some navigational steps.
Okay. Well, your mama said those three C's are very important. The chemistry and the compatibility and your commitment. And so those three things come into play with this next analogy. The Bible talks about being unequally yoked. Now, a yoke is that piece of wood that went over the necks and the heads of animals, right? Primarily cows or bulls, whatever you want to call it. But it didn't work very well when they were not the same size. If you had one big animal, let's say it's a bull, and you had a smaller bull, then they could not equally hold the weight up. And so one would suffer more than the other. Now, so when the Bible talks about unequally yoked, I want you to have that picture in your head. Now take that and you bring it into relationships. So now you have one person who is religiously minded and another person that's not religiously minded. And so it creates a lot of turmoil. So that's why I said you have to choose the right person. You can't just look at chemistry. You got to look at your personality, your values, and your beliefs, and then you make a choice. Especially in the Western world, we do a lot of decisions based on looks, based on finances, and it creates a lot of unequally yoked situations, not because we are physically different, but we might be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or even financially unyoked. And so, you know, when you look at it from all standpoints, that yoked aspect, whether it is educationally, socioeconomically, you know, all of those different things that separate people, you can be the same race, but be unequally yoked because of culture, because of education, because of religion, because of whatever. And so with that being said, the person that you choose can make or break the rest of your life. So how do you navigate it? By choosing carefully, by knowing what your rules, regulations, boundaries, and non-negotiables are. Now, the second aspect of that question is the cultural part. I'm Caribbean, my wife's American. You might say, hey, we're both black, but we had a lot of differences. And one of the main differences is in the Caribbean, men tend to run stuff. In America, the black women tend to be running the household. And so we spent a lot of years fighting. And it's because we both had egos. We didn't want each other to win. And when it took a while before we realized, hey, why don't I play to my strengths, you play to your strengths, and we can all make this work out properly. We fought a lot of years till we figured that out because we didn't know that there was a blueprint to making a relationship work. And so the cultural bit is a biggie. You think because you're the same color that all of a sudden it's going, it's less problems. Nah. She might have had less problems if she picked someone else from America that was a different color. Because cultural differences came into play. And so you have to do your homework. You can't just pick and choose. It can be like a piñata type situation where you just get a bat and start swatting whoever you hit. That's the one that you're gonna marry. It can't be one of those blind things. You got to look at it from your personality view. You have to look at it from your socioeconomic view. You have to look from your financial view. You have to look at it from your spiritual view. You have to look at it based on the goals and dreams you want out of your life and what that person wants out of their life and whether or not you are capable of providing them the value. And I'm talking about long-term value, not short-term value, because a lot of times short-term values might be, oh yeah, I like the way she look, and you got this money and this and that. Those aren't really values; those are wants. Values go a little deeper. And so when you're looking at values, when you're looking at dreams and aspirations, you're looking at the long-term versus short-term, and how can this person pour into me? And am I going to be so emotionally and mentally drained that I won't be able to pour into everyone else around me? But you can have a house where you're so drained every day you can't go to work and function properly.
Right.
But you might have the baddest wife or husband on the block, but that don't mean you're any happier.
That's true.
And so it starts with who you choose and why you're choosing. You got to know the reason why. You should be choosing for the long haul. Money doesn't last forever, so that shouldn't be a long-term thing. And you know what else doesn't last forever? Looks don't last forever, so that should not be a long-term thing either. And a lot of times when we pick people based on superficials, we end up finding, oh man, they didn't keep the money I thought they would keep, or that person didn't keep the looks that I thought they would keep. And so now I want out because you chose short-term versus long-term. So how do you navigate it? Choose better. How do you choose better? Work on yourself. Know what you want out of life and then pick accordingly.
Awesome.
I know I'm a little serious today. I'm sorry. This 2 weeks in a row I've been serious, man. I didn't mean to be serious like this,
No, it's good. No. This is good. No, listen. This is what it's all about. You take the good with the bad. You laugh some, you cry some, you question some, and you just
2 weeks of crying. That's not good.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But the final question that I have tonight, because we were able to get through a lot of questions tonight. That's good. What's the most important lesson that can be learned about forgiveness in a relationship?
I want to preface this with this analogy. And it's an old saying. Hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So one of the biggest things that you found is you have people in the church that, I don't know if you know of this, but I know of this personally in several churches all around the world where I've been, where families don't like each other, and it's because the grandfather and someone else had a beef, and so now their kids and their kids and their kids no longer get along, and nobody even remembers why.
Right, in America we call it the Hatfields and McCoy.
Right, and so you have a lot of that going on. And so what I'm going to say is this: Forgiveness has two reasons. When you forgive someone, you release them from under your yoke. And the second thing is when you forgive someone, you also release yourself from under your yoke. See, the thing about hatred is this: when you hate someone, hatred does not have a timestamp. Hatred does not remember if it's today, yesterday, tomorrow, or whether or not it was 20 years ago. When you see that person, those emotions come flooding back as if it was happening right here and now. And so every time you see that person, so if you're hating a spouse, if you're hating someone that you see on a regular basis, you are constantly, continually drudging up those emotions. And those emotions are holding you hostage. They're stopping you from growing. They're stopping you from developing. They're stopping you from moving on. How can you be mindful when you are living in the past? So forgiveness allows you to move forward. Forgiveness allows you to look at that person with a different light. But one of the things that I want to say about forgiveness does not mean that you bring the person back into your circle of influence. You can forgive and move on, or you can forgive and reconcile. It all depends on your level of forgiveness. But the key to it is making sure that you let it go. And sometimes just the act of telling someone else, I forgive you, reboots your brain into starting over, into letting go, into moving forward. And so the most important lesson is when you don't forgive in a relationship, everything is at a standstill. Your whole life starts to go out of alignment and you cannot move forward as a person. And the more people you refuse to forgive, the more out of alignment you become. I've heard people, and I know you have Caribbean roots, but I've heard Caribbean people say, I will spend the rest of my life getting you back if you ever cross me in any shape, form, or fashion. And these are religious people. What heaven are you trying to get to if you refuse to forgive? And not only aren't you forgiven, but you're going to spend every waking moment trying to find a way to get back at that person? There ain't no heaven for you. It's only hell for you. So you have hell on earth, and then you're going to burn. Because you can't get to heaven. You can't get to heaven if you have any type of animosity in your soul, especially on a daily basis.
Yes.
You know, and so at the end of the day, you just got to let that stuff go, man. Forgive yourself, forgive the other person so you can both move forward. That's it.
Wow. Whew, this has been an eye-opener episode. I hope somebody's eyes have been open, ears have been loosed, if you will, that you were able to pick up some of the things that Dr. Howe was putting down, because it's important to our relationships. It's important to those who we come in contact with, whether on a daily basis or somewhere along the way, that these are the type of the things that Dr. Howe said tonight can be, it can spill over into all type of relationships. And the challenges that exist in your relationship, the barriers that come up, the cultural differences, the religious differences, how those are impacted in your lives. And ultimately, after you go through all that, what's that quality? Can you find one quality that you're looking for in a partner and take that quality and bring it out? Because I've talked to a lot of different people, and they always say to me, why do I end up with certain types of people? What's the quality you're looking for? What are you looking for? What are you really, really looking for in that? And sometimes you got to forgive yourself first before you start looking for anybody else. And all that forgiveness that we talked about in the relationships, that thing starts with you. Can
And you know what we
forgive
call that? We
yourself?
call that baggage.
There you go.
Now, to answer your question, why do people keep getting back to the same people over and over? Because they're not moving forward. If you don't self-develop, you attract who you are. And as a lot of the old life coaches say, you are what you focus on. If you say all men are dogs, you become more dog-like because that's what you attract. If all you attract are horrible people, it's because there's something about you that attracts them. It's either limiting beliefs, it's either self-hate, or self-degradation that's causing you to get to that point. Why is it you keep getting the same person? Because that's what you attract. There's something on the inside that attracts them. And so until you change that, you will continue to get the same type of person.
Wow. Huh. Interesting.
And I know that steps on a lot of toes right there, because nobody wants to hear that they're attracting crap because they're crappy on the inside.
I call that constipation. Hey, listen. Our cliffhanger question for today. Write it down, Dr. How, because I don't want no problems next week. Our cliffhanger question for today. After all this that we done went through tonight, this is the cliffhanger question. Here we go. How do you handle jealousy in your relationship? How do you handle jealousy in your relationship? Listen, we done talked about a lot tonight. This has been a heavy one, but the ultimate question at the end of the day, can you relate to this? I'm Jay Tross. This is my co-host, Dr. Siegfried Howe. We'll see you next time on another wonderful, excellent, outstanding episode of Relate to This. We'll see you later.
Relate to this. With Jay Charles and Dr.